Welcome to Human School. I'm your host, Dr. Patil Armenian. After 4 years of college, 4 years of medical school, 4 years of residency, and 2 years of fellowship, I thought I was done. I did my time, got my degrees, and now I was just gonna live life. Well, think again. Some of my greatest schooling has come after my formal education was complete, and it keeps on coming. Join me at Human School, where we can learn together. I'm an emergency physician and medical toxicologist working at a large teaching hospital in California. I'm also a mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend. Whether you work in healthcare or not, you too lead a busy life. Together, let's work on how we can thrive in all of our real-world roles. On this podcast, we'll dig deep into what it means to constantly learn and evolve, to be human. Every other week, I'll share some of my personal stories, interview inspiring people, and offer tools to help you learn more about yourself. Being on the front lines in the ER, you learn a lot about life and death. And though my philosophies were born in a busy emergency room, they can apply to anyone trying to live a joyful life here on Earth. Please listen, share, and subscribe to this podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on Instagram at Human School Podcast, and feel free to let me know what topics or guests you want to hear about. And if you like the podcast, don't forget to rate and review it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Human School. Today, backed by popular demand, we have my sister, Garin Hussenjian. Hi, G.
Hi.
And in case you guys haven't listened to the other episodes, I call her G and she calls me P.
PNG.
So that's what we're dealing with here. So I wanted Garin to come on today to tell us a story, and a really interesting story about a trip that you went on. Tell us about this trip you went on, and when was it?
It was August 2022, and I decided to do a road trip on my own to Humboldt County. It was a place I had always planned to visit, wanted to visit, and had been working it out in June, and decided August was the time I could take off from work and just get in the car and do this road trip to Humboldt County. Yeah.
So Humboldt County is in the northernmost part of California, and
Mm-hmm.
you live in Southern California. So this
Yeah.
is quite the road trip to take on your own. How many hours is it, you think?
Oh my gosh. Well, I broke up the drive. I first came to Fresno, saw you guys, and then continued on to wine country, stayed one night there, and then continued on to get towards the city I went to, which was close to Eureka, which is at the topmost. So it's, if you just did it nonstop, I don't know, 12 hours, more than that,
Yeah,
I would
California is a
say.
long state. You
Yeah,
just
it's a
went
lot.
from the
And I just went
bottom
the
to the top.
whole, it would be the whole, essentially from LA all the way up to the tip before Oregon. So I didn't want to drive too much. I also didn't want to drive at night on my own. So I just broke it up into chunks.
And meanwhile, you have a full-time job that's
Mm-hmm.
very demanding.
Yep.
And of course, let's not forget your husband and 2 kids.
Can't forget them. Number
Can't forget
one.
them. But you were like, I'm going to do this trip.
Yeah. I felt this huge, like undeniable pull that I can't say I felt before, and I definitely haven't felt since, that I must do this. I remember talking to my husband and was like, yeah, I'm planning a road trip. Well, he's like, wait, what? Like, what about us? Should we come? No, this is a solo road trip. I have to do it. I'm going to be doing it. Here's when I'm doing it. Like, I'm telling him versus, I mean, normally we make every decision together. So this was like really intense. It was like, this is it. Now is the time.
Yeah, and normally you couldn't even drive up to Fresno without all of them because all of you guys love coming and visiting us so much.
Yeah. I mean, I think what must have, I have no idea actually what happened when I peeled out of that driveway and was like, bye, see you in a week. Actually, they did their own little mini fun stuff, which helped. But I wasn't even thinking about it. Was this thing, I just have to do this road trip. So also came at a point where I had just been diagnosed with cancer in July and had been planning this road trip and had my first chemo in mid July and asked my doctor, okay, I've planned this trip, which I really need to do. Can I do it? It's between chemo 1 and chemo 2.
Okay,
The
whoa,
trip
whoa.
lined perfectly with the chemo schedule, by the way.
Okay, wait. You just
Okay.
like threw this bomb at us. So hold on, let's
Yeah.
take a step back. So you were very unexpectedly diagnosed with cancer.
Yes.
What kind of cancer did you have?
Breast cancer, HER2, stage 3, when it was discovered. And I was notified and in late June via a phone call that, this is cancer. So let's get your team going and a medical team and all that. And of course, thanks, P, you were with me every step of the way. You and I went to see our initial meeting with the oncology team, the surgeon, the radiation oncologist, and my main oncologist, who we love, Dr. McAndrew. We did that meeting on July 5. And from then they said, look, this is aggressive. We're going to do your chemo. I think they were like, oh, we're going to do your chemo in a week or two. I couldn't even get my head around that I have cancer and I already had done my first chemo. And all I kept thinking was like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to be great. My life is normal. I have this road trip. I was really focused on getting on the road and doing this trip. I remember talking to the doctor like, okay, yeah, cancer, but I have this trip planned. Can I do it? And he's like, yeah, I mean, if you feel good, you should do it. Like, do it now before your body gets weak. And I didn't quite even know what he meant then. I do, of course, now, but I'm so glad that I did do it. It was planned perfectly between my first and second chemo. And there's 3 weeks in between each chemo. So for me, the sweet spot was a week and a half after, was when I had like regained energy, felt great. And actually, that was planned to be my departure date. So I had already booked all the hotel and things like that. So that's what I was aiming towards.
So I was there when you were having this conversation with your oncologist,
Hmm.
who, again, shout out Dr. McAndrew at UCLA. Best
Yes.
team. We love UCLA. Took such good
Yes.
care of you. And they were so on top of everything. Like
Yeah.
the speed at which things
Hmm.
got done. At no point did we feel like you weren't in good hands.
Right.
But
Agree.
we were coming at him with some weird questions. You're like, well, I have to go on this road trip. Why? Do you have a family member? Someone like dying? Is someone? No.
No.
I myself feel like I have to do this. And he was like going with it. He was like, okay, well, I think on the calendar, these would be the best dates. And you were like,
Yes.
perfect. That's already what I had scheduled. And also, I'm going to pause here for a
Hmm.
second and say that you were in full denial still, and
Totally.
you thought chemo schmemo, I'm going to work my normal job through all
Yes.
this, I'm going to be my normal self, and you had no idea what you were in for.
Just to let me just mention one more thing about that. I did do very well chemo 1, 2, and 3. I actually worked full time, taking only 2 days off each chemo and bounced back very quickly. Like the doctor was really impressed, like, wow, you actually have energy and you're still going to work. And those initial chemos, which are butt kickers, did eventually get me. They were 6 in total initially. That's just at the tip of a 15-month medical journey that I was on of different stages of treatment. But that was still like I felt great. I was like, "Oh, this chemo thing is going to be awesome." Like I still have my hair. Looks like we're good to go. Looks like I'm the unicorn of chemo recipients, you know?
I still think you were the unicorn of chemo recipients
Thank
because
you.
tell us
Mhm.
what stage you're in now and what's going on with your health.
Yep, I'm 1 year clear. Great. My hair's totally grown out and I feel fantastic. My energy is finally like I do feel it did take a year to cleanse out my body. My energy has bounced back. I feel really more back to normal, pre-cancer normal of strength, durability, just general day-to-day resilience. All that had really gone downhill. But I feel great. 1 year clean.
Cancer free.
Cancer free.
Yes,
Yes.
which is like amazing. But
Thanks,
at the
P.
time of this story,
Yeah.
we didn't know what was going to happen.
No. We
Yeah.
didn't know, am I gonna be a good recipient of chemo? Is it going to work? Is the cancer are the cancer cells going to, die down? And am I gonna recover? It was 0. We have no idea what we're in for.
And not to mention after chemo, double
Mhm.
mastectomy,
Oh, yeah.
radiation, lot of steps, and then the
And then
continuous
mhm.
infusions of the
14 more infusions, which we're calling them infusions. They're called chemotherapy still. The cocktail is much lighter. It is what I partially was taking in the first round of very strong chemo, but it's a lighter cocktail. The insurance company still calls that chemotherapy and
yes,
covers it.
and those are
So,
the HER receptor acting medications.
mhm.
So lots
So we
more to
started
unpack
in
in that.
July. Yeah, I started in July 2022, first day of treatment, and I ended in October of 2023.
Wow.
My final, and then I got my port out at the very end, and that was on October 9, 2023. Port removal. I knew
Wow.
then I'm done. We're done. And so now I do every 6 months, I do a blood test, and then based on the numbers, they can determine has cancer reemerged or not. And so far, I've done 2 blood tests every 6 months, and I'm cancer free. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yes.
Yay, I'm so
Yay.
happy.
We never really talked about that.
No.
This detail. Yeah. So
Okay.
all this is coming up and I'm still like in total denial mode and I'm like, "Okay, road trip, you know. Why do you have to go on this road trip?" Well,
Yeah.
I wrote a book.
Let's go back to the road trip now.
Mhm. Mhm.
So now we know what's going on in your life. And you get to our house and then you leave our house. So how did you get there? And where exactly did you go?
So my trusty car, I got to Fresno. Mina was with me and I
Yes.
dropped Mina off. We were together for a night, dropped Mina off to do what we lovingly call Camp Ticonderoga. So Mina spends a summer 1 week usually at your house and does tons of fun stuff with you guys. So Mina was very happy and I continued on my journey and my plan was to go to a lumber city, a city where the main work is oriented around lumber. Lumber mills, lumberjacks, fallen trees, and all this is in relation to a novel that I wrote during COVID, actually.
So you're trying to get to a random middle of nowhere logging town.
A logging town. I found a logging town with a hotel on the trusty internet after actually a lot of research. I mean, I had been researching Humboldt County in particular as the setting for my novel because of all of the watershed, the water, the paths of water, not just the rivers, but they have a lot of underground rivers, underground pools of water. They have a very rich watershed area, as well as a lot of logging and life around logging towns. And that's the setting of the novel that I wrote.
Now, you've been a writer your whole life,
Mhm.
but what made you start writing a novel, this novel?
It's so crazy. So we're in COVID lockdown. I worked, I had a municipal government job. So we were very busy. My job ramped up during COVID. But being at home, suddenly I had this flexibility of not needing to get up early, get dressed in a fancy way, and head to work. Instead, I could just be at home. I was still getting up early. And one day, I just started writing the initial words. I just saw this scene and I just started writing the scene. And the whole book, so I would wake up really early. Well,
How
for
early?
me, 5 a.m. I mean, I don't know, everyone wakes up at different times, but that's still early for me. So I would wake up at 5. It would be hushed in the house. I love that. Go to the dining room, get out my notebook. I would be groggy. I would barely turn on any lights. And when you see, I handwrite initially, I always handwrite everything. So I'd open up my notebook and you can even see the initial notebook pages. The lines aren't perfectly straight because I'm just feverishly writing and I had the lights very dim. So it kept me in this sleep wake place. And I just saw scene after scene. And all I needed to do was write what I saw. It's so interesting. I kept saying to myself, just write what you are seeing. I would see the whole thing unfold, and all I needed to do was quickly, as much best as I could, write it out, essentially. And every morning I would wake up and this would happen. And I didn't even know, who are these people? Like, what is going on? Where are they? I kept asking questions and it would just keep moving forward. And I kept writing and I'd be like hating one of these main characters. Oh my God, I still hate her. And I still think about this novel a lot. Like, I did 3 rewrites on it. I even adapted it to a screenplay because that's, part of something I have done in the past. Went to film school, uh, know how to do that. And so I really wanted to understand the bones of what I had written, and nothing like breaking something down into a screenplay, to do that, where you're like, how did we even get here? In a script, you kind of have to understand things differently. But that novel just kind of came out of me. And to use a current catchphrase or something, but like it definitely was like a channeled feeling. Like I couldn't keep up with what I needed to get down on paper. It's just like scribbling. Oh my God, what's happening? Okay, she's walking there, and then oh my God, she just opened this door. What's behind this door? Like I'm as confused and intrigued as I would think a reader might be in the future.
You've written a lot of things before. You got your bachelor's in English with an emphasis in creative writing from UCLA.
Yeah.
So you've written. Have you
Yes.
had a writing process like that before where
Mm.
just images come to you?
And I'm gonna just early on, I used to write poetry. So my first like preteen, 12, 13, early writing was poetry for me. I hated reading poetry, funny enough. I'm a fan of certain poetry, but I'm not a big poetry fan, period. But it's what came out of me. And I remember then feeling like I was trying to put a scene in words. Later on, going to school, I really developed the tools for how to write a narrative. And when you learn tools, you become very aware. Like, okay, this is my main character. Here's a plot point. Here's the initial incident. Here's the act one, act two, act three structure. Okay, we need to have a conflict here so that we can get to a resolution here. A lot of that stuff is things I had to unlearn because I felt it was hindering my voice. You know, you start to really morph into what you think a story needs, and you can write that way. And I did. For many years, I would be like, oh, I need this element here. And then I realized when I wrote this novel, it was just like going back to the pure place that education could not really do for me. Years of education and reading and critical analysis of novels and writing, and then having your writing critiqued and edited. And it was like I went back to the initial source of how it used to be when I was really much younger, like a little kid writing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it just happened, thanks COVID, because COVID shook it up, right? Like it shook things up, you know? You're out of your own routine somehow, and it just shook something free in me, and I was able to do that.
Yeah. So next thing you know, you're up at 5 a.m. in the dark writing every morning.
Yeah, every morning, and I did that maybe for like a year. I mean, not kind of not missing any days. And actually, my younger one, Mark, he knew he's an early bird like me, and he knew I would be getting up, and every morning, almost, I'm saying very regularly for a tiny kid at that point. So that would have been 5 years ago. So he was a 7-year-old, and he would wake up knowing I'm up in the dining room writing, and I would make a little bed for him. I don't think I've ever told you this. I would put a little one of our like our living room sofa cushions on the floor, like a little pillow, and then I would get a blanket, and he would then come to the living room, and he knew I was writing, and he'd be like, "Mom, are you writing?" "Yes, I'm writing." I told him, you can't talk to me right now. I'm writing. And he's like, "I know. I'm just going to sleep here." I said, "Okay." And he would do that all the time. And
That is so
sometimes he still
cute.
brings it up. He's like, "Mom, remember when you were writing?" And I'll be like, "Yeah," because I haven't really done anything like that since.
That is so cute. I didn't know that was
Yeah,
happening.
he was my little buddy.
Oh, Mark.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you were seeing these scenes and you're writing them and you're like, where is this? Where is this? And you've no idea where the location itself was.
Yeah.
At some point, I think you figured out the location. How did that happen?
Well, I started to, in the writing, I knew that there were a lot of trees. This takes place in a forest. I kept saying, this is a very dense forest. It's a lush, dense forest. And then, as one of the main characters ventured out, she discovered very old, rusted lumber and milling and logging equipment, kind of like these rusted, jutted metal coming out of the soil. And she would be like, "What is that?" She would be wondering that. I was realizing that this is a location of a previous civilization or society. because the novel is a dystopian future. So it was very clear to me that wherever this was, and there was a river, and I started to realize, okay, this is a logging community. So I started researching and I knew that it was Northern California.
What kind of trees were you seeing?
So I was seeing a lot of redwood trees.
Mm,
Yeah, that was the clue.
that was the ticket to
Logging,
Northern
redwood.
California.
Yeah, redwood, logging. I thought, okay, we're up in Northern California. I'm not that familiar with that area. And I had never even really been in that area that I'm now describing. And I actually got a lot of books and just started researching and researching as I'm writing the book. Then during the day, I'm kind of reading and researching different historical books that show a lot of photos and show a lot of like milling towns. And I just got deep into a, rabbit hole of information I had never even known. But everything I was writing was I there was a railroad track, and then later I discovered, well, I didn't know this. I know this now, but I didn't know it when I wrote about this railroad track they were uncovering. But they would have railroad track because they would put the logs on rail cars and take them. That was a transportation method of how to get all this wood up from the hill down to the town. So I was like freaking out as I was researching, being like, oh my God, this is what I'm writing is real. Like this really exists somewhere.
And look, let's be honest, you're
Yeah.
not like a history buff expert at
Zero.
random things. Like, I know some people might say, well, of course, they had these logging railways that would get, the tree trunks from place to place. That is like a normal part of some people's education and knowledge base, not
Yeah.
yours.
No, I somehow missed all that. Like, I'm serious. We joke about how I'm like not up to date on current events, or sometimes I'm just living in a weird bubble, and you guys have to be like, hey, Garin, this is what's happening. Or, yeah, that happened. A history, funny, like our mom is such a history buff, a social studies teacher for a majority of her career or half of her career. And I just didn't get that gene. And I was discovering this for the first time. Yeah. First writing about it, then researching to be like, where is all this? And so, sure enough, I just started narrowing it down. And I have a lot of books behind me, P, that, yeah, I know your audience can't see, but it's a lot of historical, archival books that show photos and photo documentation of the certain turn of the century time period where most of this was happening.
Were there any times where you would see a photo of something in the book and feel like, oh, yes, this is
Yes.
confirmation?
Yes. Yes.
Give us an
T-
example.
well, okay. So, for example, one of the logging communities was completely abandoned at some point, and it still exists to this day as a series of dilapidated buildings that are deep in the forest now. Someone has gone and done a photo essay of that community, and it's actually preserved now by the US Forest and Wildlife Services. It's not open to the public because, trust me, I tried to go. And when I saw photos of the house, one of the main houses that I've been writing about and describing, the details of the front door, the windows, the porch, even the number of stairs leading up to the porch, I saw the photo of it after I had written it. And
What?
yes, I didn't tell you that. I must have
No.
told you at the time. And I was like, this is the house. Like, this is literally, this is the house. So I know I'm screaming, but it's, and I haven't thought about this all in a while. So now I'm like, I really need to get back on this novel and see what's up with it. But yeah, that was really crazy, is to see the things that I had written. And when I was younger, I used to have dreams. And then in real life, like one time, our uncle, when they lived in St. Petersburg, Russia, I went to visit them. And then they took me to a dacha. Dacha in Russian means summer house. We went to a summer house where when I walked into one of the bedrooms, I had literally seen that room in a dream and I knew it. Like I was like, wow, I'm here. I knew everything there.
Wow, I didn't know
Yeah.
that either.
Yeah. So it reminded me that I felt like I'm tapped in. That's how I feel when things like that happen. Like I'm doing it. Like I'm tapped into the right thing at the right moment, getting the right stuff somehow. It just all tells me, yes, this is right.
You're on the right track,
Yeah, that's what it's telling me. If
the
you're on
right
the right
train
track.
track.
So as I kept getting these books and discovering things and things, of course, there was so much new material too. And I was like, oh wow, that's called a piston and whatever, certain parts of the machinery. And then that gave me language to go back to the novel and sometimes use an appropriate word for something that I didn't even know then. Even to be honest, I didn't know how to use the word. Now I know it's called fallen trees, fallen logs. I was like, what is this way of using how do you just describe a bunch of trees that are piled up that have been cut? And the normal term for that is fallen. And I don't know how to explain it, but it felt so foreign and new to me how to use that word, which I think of as a verb, but it was used more as an adjective. And I was like really getting my mind around certain things that I was trying to describe. And also though, in the novel, the characters do not understand what they're seeing. So I was coming at it from the same place as my main character, who doesn't understand what is this metal thing. Then Garin, the author, was kind of getting a side education and understanding, okay, this is a lumber community. This was where they were cutting the trees. Okay, this was where they were pulling the trees and then shipping them down the rail to the community. I was understanding that.
So this was a real learning experience for you, just even understanding these things.
Yeah. And then remember, in you and me, and of course our husbands and the kids, we've been on that railroad.
Yes, so it's called the
You want to
Yosemite
share?
Sugar Pine Railroad.
Yes.
It's right outside Yosemite National Park, the South Gate, so right near Fresno, and it's an old lumber rail that now does it's like a tourist attraction, and you go and you do rides and you basically go through the forest that looks just like you're in Yosemite but right
Yeah.
outside, and it's all redwoods and sequoias and just giant beautiful trees. So we all went there as a family.
Hmm.
I don't remember when, but I think and even you wanted to go, which
Yeah.
normally you would not want to go to an activity like that, but you were like, we need to go to the forest. I need to see what this is all about.
Yeah. And I remember being like, really understanding what I was seeing, where we were in a totally different way. And just the novel allowing all of this history and community to become alive in me in a way that I never really felt before. So that was like, it's a fun thing for the kids to do, but I was having my mind blown like, oh yeah, that's exactly what that is, or here's what we're doing now. Oh, look at this old relic, and actually looking at all that stuff.
You were having the time of your life.
I think about that. I took so many photos. It was like I was photo documenting parts of what were in the novel too for me. So that was a really important place for us to go.
So now we're back to the road trip.
Yeah.
Now we know why you had to go. You needed to see the places with your own eyes, it sounds
Yeah.
like.
I had gotten to a place, okay, I was done with the novel by like a year and a half. I got the news of cancer. This road trip was already planned like just before that news. And it felt like a real time that that's it. I really have to go see this. Of course, this in the novel is always brewing in me, even now. I mean, even now I'm washing dishes and then randomly a moment in the novel pops up, kind of think something through. I'm definitely feel I'm working on it all the time and kind of really understanding more of things that I felt rushed because I was really rushed through writing that first draft. Like I just had to get it out. Oh, another scene appeared, another scene appeared. Okay, well, keep going. I don't have a choice. Now it's like this dust has settled and I can just look back on things. And that road trip really gave me a lot too to some of the things I saw on that trip after I got up north. I was like, oh, understanding things in even a different way.
As a brief summary, my sister Garin, who is a wife and mother to 2 children, was newly diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. She was working more than full time in a municipal government job and didn't have a lot of time to herself. The small amount of time she had was what she carved out by waking up daily at 5 a.m. and writing. For over 2 years, she had been waking up super early to write a novel before the rest of the family started their day. Almost in a dreamlike state, she would see scenes and write them out, later figuring out she was writing about real places she had never seen in Humboldt County, California. In the summer of 2022, between a couple rounds of chemo, she decided to take a road trip to Northern California to explore the locations in the novel. This is a good place to pause until next time when Garin continues to tell her story about this strange road trip and how she came out stronger, clearer, and ready to accept that she had cancer so that she could begin the process of healing from it. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss the rest of this story. It gets a little weird, but it's really great. So come back in a couple of weeks for part 2 of Following the Road Signs. Thank you, everyone. Please like, subscribe, share, and download the podcast. And again, you can find us at Human School Podcast on Instagram. I'd like to thank Dr. Zach Effron for the theme music. And I'd just like to make a general disclaimer that any of the institutions I work for, including Community Regional Medical Center, UCSF Fresno, and American Ambulance, have nothing to do with any of my thoughts or opinions, and so we'll kindly leave them out of this. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.